So, the last practice for the week is just going to be a very small um, practice that I'm hoping will be easier to fit in, even on days when you are in the office and maybe you don't have mats and pillows or you don't feel comfortable folding over. I'd like to give you a little bit more of an opportunity today, however, to take some measurements before we start. So come and find whatever's a comfortable position for you. It can be seated or standing. Maybe today best not to do something lying down, although what we will do today can be integrated into the pose we did yesterday, which is called child's pose. But before we do that, just find your seated position or your preparation for your child's pose, and just notice, where am I feeling tension in my body? And as I mentioned previously, the tension might not just be where am I feeling muscles that are tensed. The tension might be the speed or the intensity of the thoughts. I don't know if you've ever had this experience, but there are certainly moments where it feels like there are so many thoughts in my head that like my entire face scrunches up. I definitely notice when that goes away, when the jaw releases and the eyebrows release, and maybe there's even more space around the eyes and the ears. So again, that's not necessarily something to actively do or actively undo, but just be aware that the manifestation of tense thoughts might be physical, in the same way that there might just also be a lot of pressure and angst, and therefore lack of space for rest and relaxation, just because the thoughts that we are having. Very often there will be physical manifestations of those tense thoughts as well. So once again, we're going to start. You can orient to the room, whether you are doing it with your eyes open and therefore physically seeing the doors and the walls and the windows and everything else that is in the room. You could be doing this with your eyes closed. However you are choosing to do this, at some point stop with the face facing forward, and you're going to bring the palms together and you're going to rub the palms against each other. And you're going to rub them until they get a little bit hot, but also because maybe you can notice how different the fingers feel when you rub against them relative to the top part of the palm or the central part of the palm or the bottom of the palm. They're just very different surfaces. And as you open them up, there's this sort of cushiony bit towards the bottom of the hand. And as you lean your head forward, I would like for you to come and rest the soft part of the eyes into that cushiony part of the palms. So if you're at a desk, maybe you're resting your elbows on the desk. If, like me, you're not at a desk, maybe the elbows are just resting onto the chest. And as you stay here for a few breaths, just moving one hand for the sake of you hearing me better, can you almost actively feel the pressure, the light pressure that the palm is creating on the eyeball? And with every exhale, can you almost imagine that someone is slowly lowering something to the floor? So it's like they have a string and they're slowly lengthening the string so that the object that is hanging off of it can drop and drop and drop. And maybe that can help your head drop a little bit more. And if there's anything else that you want to add in here, whether it's breathing in a particular way, or any visualization that might be helpful to you. And then you can allow both palms to float away from the hands. Apologies, both hands, palms to float away from the eyes. And it might take a little while before the eyes actually feel like they want to open again. But then at some point come to open your eyes again. And again, go back to those earlier measurements, whatever your personal measurements were for your sense of relaxation or tension or preparation for rest or even preparation for mental clarity to focus on whatever it is that you might need to do next. And again, can you track, just for your own sake, can you keep a measure of what feels different now relative to when we started a few minutes ago? Right? So for me, definitely feels like the muscles around my face are smoother. And it's not an aesthetic that it's interesting to me. It's just that it feels like there's a lot less pressing up against them in the background. I hope you have a wonderful weekend.